But before we get into that, we of course have to thank the biggest sponsor of the channel is whom, Charles?
Slutty Dumb Inbreeders.
That's gonna that's the end of the Sonoran Desert Issue.
By now, over the last 4 years and the like $1.5 million that SDI has shilled out to your favorite Instagram or YouTube influencer, you've probably heard about SDI. And this video was kind of weird for us, being that we're a growing channel and SDI is one of the highest paying sponsors on the docket. We were presented with the opportunity to be sponsored by SDI and we said no. And I want to talk about why we said no, and more importantly, I think that they've had enough time. They make $60 million a year off of your GI Bills and tuition. It's time for us to talk about SDI.
I went to SDI for a whole few months there. I graduated real college in August 2022 and jumped into SDI when I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I got home in September 2022. And then I withdrew beginning of December 2022. After, 2.5-ish months there of being a student, I realized the $1,370 a month that I was paying for tuition was not actually going to get me anywhere. My first few classes were like history of firearms, technology, and a little bit about like intro to gunsmithing, I guess it was. I read some different articles on just basic level gunsmithing and how some guys have worked on older guns. History of firearms went back to very early flintlock, matchlock type stuff, all that. And then I got sent a package as they were preparing to get me set up for like the second half of the semester. And in that it included a gunsmithing textbook, a set of calipers, a tiny little bit of aluminum, and some drill bits. So presumably they were going to teach me some metalworking there. But realistically, most of gunsmithing, if you want to manufacture firearms, you're going to need to know how to run a milling machine, a lathe, that type of stuff, which they're not going to be able to teach you on a virtual classroom level.
Yeah, so we're going to double down on that. Today I'm going to highlight, obviously, this is the weird part. If you go online, it doesn't take a lot of research. It really does not take a lot of research to find hundreds of reviews from existing students that are negative. There are positive reviews out there, obviously. With anything, you're bound to have some positive reviews, but there are an overwhelming amount of negative reviews for SDI. I'm going to pull up my phone throughout this because I have a bunch of notes, and I've actually spent a ton of time on this, but like some of them are that GI Bills is kind of SDI's bread and gravy. And it's true, they're bread and gravy, not bread and butter. Bread and gravy does tend to be going for GI Bills. So it's interesting to me that they're air quotes in accredited universities. So you'll get a degree in gunsmithing. It's an associate's degree in gunsmithing. And the three things that I want to highlight is kind of like what SDI claims they'll do for you. SDI claims that they will give you a knowledge and degree in gunsmithing from an accredited university, which they will give you a degree in gunsmithing from an accredited university. They're technically accredited. A foot in the door into a career in gunsmithing, which they do. You know that they do SDI job fairs for graduates, and they work with firearms companies and manufacturers, which we ended up reaching out to, and I did talk to about hiring people with an SDI degree and what that looks like. So that's the second thing we're going to look at. And the third one is a convenient and complete coursework from the comfort of your home, because that's the most important thing. It's an online degree in gunsmithing. And I'm going to break those three things down really quickly and kind of talk about why we have a problem with it. So the big thing is the knowledge and degree in gunsmithing from an accredited university. They're accredited in the sense that they can rob your GI Bill. They're not accredited in the sense that they're respected by anyone in the industry. So I'm highlighting some points from a really cool guy who put together a whole video on it and currently does gunsmithing, runs his own shop, is a certified gunsmith, basically wants to be a PhD in gunsmithing and learn everything he can. So even though he's already successful, he went through and took the course. Obviously, Max and I worked at a gun shop, so Max was hoping to learn something and dropped out when he realized he wasn't going to learn anything. This guy's a little more committed than we are. I guess he had a little more disposable income, because the unique part about SCI is it costs $21,982 to get your 2-year degree or your associate's degree in gunsmithing. Tuition of that is $9,440, $6,000 I'm just going to put the total up here because you guys can look at it if you care. But yeah, $22,000 for your online degree in gunsmithing. You figure that by their 4,000 active students, they're making, you know, $4.5 million a month, $60 million a year. So they're a huge industry. And that's why you're seeing your favorite YouTubers show them, because they are paying them a dumb amount of money. And yeah, we've seen Grantham pitch it for the past 4 years. That's kind of what got this guy interested in going.
Yeah, I cited him as the reason for signing up. I put Grantham in that little box where they asked me.
Yeah, it's very interesting. We did get some information when we were about to release this video, and you guys will know from Grantham's most recent video at the time of posting this that he dropped SDI. I'm glad, but I'd like to see in the future, I'd like to see gun YouTubers, like, we have a big influence. Research the product you're pitching. We've done this on multiple occasions where we've told you, like, we won't take a sponsor, and obviously we're not killing it on YouTube. We're not making a ton of money off of it.
Basically net loss, actually.
Yeah, we're actually still losing money off of it. But we're not going to pitch you guys a product or a service that we don't think is at least good or okay or would be good for you. And the reason that we said no to SDI, and the reason we're talking about this today, is Wright Firearms solutions that are really good 2-hour video, which we're not going to do here today.
He took the whole class. He wasn't like me, who's just a gunsmith in New Jersey.
He went through, realized he wasn't learning anything, and actually saw it to the end, finished the entire thing. He left a long-winded review online and put his first and last name, and therefore I was able to track him down. So if you ever leave a review online, don't do your full first and last name. I tracked him down and I talked to him, and he was very helpful. He sent us some coursework screenshots, some pictures of the books, because Max here was supposed to bring his book and just forgot. We are, as you can tell, in the desert for this video. Obviously, Sonoran Desert Institute. We thought there'd be a college here.
The Sonoran Dora institutionalized.
Yeah, there's no Dora in this desert. And there's also no, like, ice cream, which is very interesting. So
I'll have to get some on the way home.
Yeah, this is the thing, guys.
Out here.
He highlights some very key points, and the key point that we kind of want to get across is a knowledge and degree in gunsmithing from an accredited university. You get that. Talking to anyone, your degree from SDI doesn't matter.
I'd say a key word there is knowledge rather than experience. Like, you can learn all about gunsmithing you want, and I'm sure this will teach you something about it, but you're not going to have the experience of manufacturing or maintaining a ton of firearms through doing an online class.
And that's where it comes into a foot in a career in gunsmithing. Guys, I reached out to 3 separate companies. Some of them rhyme with, like, Pero, Incision, Calmetto, Rate Garmeries, you know, like places like that. They'll hire you if you have an SDI degree. Absolutely. They will also hire you if you walk in the door and apply for a job, because they don't care about
that first one I applied for at the same time that I was, you know, leaving SDI, and they did not offer to pay me very well, and so I didn't work there.
You get the same position that he would be offered from one of these people.
I had 4 years experience at a gun store building guns, and then they were like, how do you want to make less money than you're currently making to work on our production line? And I was like, no, thank you.
Anyway, your SDI degree would get you that same job offer. So you're still going to start as an entry-level person in these companies and have the ability to work the way up. But your SDI degree didn't help you get that job. They would just hire you. And that's what I've gotten from these companies, from the people that I have that are in contact there, and most of them do a lot of the hiring. So it's worth noting, like, even if you get this degree, it's not going to magically get you a job on a lathe as a machinist at this company. They won't touch you. If you go to, like, a real university, the most popular one that everyone talks about, I don't know if I'm allowed to name names in this, so I'm not going to, but I might put them in the description below. It's a hands-on school. You learn how to machine, and they actually have, like, headhunters. Wright Firearms Solution was talking about that. They have headhunters. Like, people call the school and ask who's graduating so that they can hire them as a machinist. That's how you get into a high-paying job from this. So if you're looking to spend your $22,000 hard-earned dollars or $22,000 of your GI Bill on a degree that's going to get you a much better, higher-paying job, it's just not going to. So that's point 1 and 2. 1 and 2, you know, the knowledge and a career. Like, no, it's not going to get you into a career. Yeah, I hear they have job fairs now where they, like, introduce you to recruiters and employers, and people who are going to SDI and have gotten hired. I'd like you to attest to this, but every single employer that I've talked to will hire you for the same position that they'd hire some random person off the street for. So yeah, they'll hire you with your SDI degree, but it's not going to get you a better position at their business. It's just not.
You're not going to be head machinist or anything like that.
You're going to be head machinist. You're going to have the same starting point as everyone else. So you basically spend $22,000 for nothing is what they're telling us. the last point that I want to make, and this way we can keep the video semi-short because this one's going to take a minute to hammer into, convenient and complete coursework from the comfort of your home. So let's talk about the coursework behind SDI. So some of the coursework just doesn't make any sense, and it's just plain outdated. We're talking about like a muzzle loading class where you learn how to make a muzzle loader. You will never work on muzzle loaders as a gunsmith, and I don't want to say never, but it's very outdated. So
usually guys that do that specialize in that.
Yeah, especially in every state that we're in, so at least our area. Guys specialize in doing muzzle loaders, and also it's such an outdated platform that you're not getting a lot of real world information or real world knowledge by doing that course. So the one thing that is a hands-on course that you do have practice in, you're going to sit down at a job interview for a company that manufactures AR-15s and go, yeah, I built a muzzle loader.
Built a muzzle loader. I think there's one project, like your final thing for the class, you can work on a 1911 frame or an AR lower or something like that. You get to pick. When I was starting, I was obviously in the intro classes, but I had like an intro to firearms class or whatever they called it, and we went over some ammunition types, and my assignment was to, if any of you have used Canvas, you know what I'm talking about, do a discussion board post with the rest of my classmates talking about the uses of the ammunition types that we went over and what we think is the best for different situations. And the text that we had to read was talking about how frangible ammunition is really cool because it shatters upon impact. Very true, it's designed to do that. The text also mentioned that they recommended for home defense for that reason because it dumps all the energy into the target, presumably, which it would because it blows up on impact. But it also discusses how some of it has a tendency to disintegrate in your barrel, causing a catastrophic malfunction for your firearm. Also true. So, you know, maybe not the best use for home defense there, which is what it was trying to hammer home. The other one, we had to go over some firearm action types and talk about maybe which one we're most likely to encounter as a gunsmith, which ones we're least likely to encounter as a gunsmith. Some other interesting points like that, again, in a discussion board post. But one of the action types we went over was the electronic motor-powered minigun that is clearly only for military use, or, you know, maybe some special 0702s that have a cool law letter for the military. They get to do some testing. Clearly that is the least likely thing I'll ever encounter as a gunsmith because, you know, I need to know a lot more about electricity than I do about guns to make one of those things work, since that's how it's powered. And nobody that I'll ever meet owns one except for those cool dudes we ran into at Shootaw. They had one for some reason.
But we weren't girls. So
we weren't girls, and we didn't want to pay $100 to shoot it for 2 seconds, which is what they were charging, which is kind of ridiculous. But anyway, it's stuff like that. You know, I get that it's a low-level class, but it's also not the most relevant information that I would ever need from stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you want to learn about firearms action types, just Google different firearm action types, and a list probably very similar to what I went over will come up. Or if you want different ammunition types for various firearms, and the same list will come up.
On page 4 of your book, and I'm putting it on the screen right now, they say course materials and other works have been prepared by or on behalf of SDI for general information and educational purposes only. SDI makes no representations or warranties as to the completeness or accuracy of the information. In no event will SDI be liable for any errors or omissions in the information contained in this work. SDI reserves the right to change, delete, or otherwise modify the work without prior notice. SDI does not assume any responsibility for the use or misuse of information contained in this work. Anyway, this is a college, and none of the books cite any of their sources. So that's something throughout. In your high school textbooks, in your college textbooks, they all have little number boys above the things as you're reading it down, and you look at the number boy and it corresponds with a source that they're citing.
There's usually pages and pages of sources cited at the end of the book.
There is not a single source cited for SDI.
I know this because I'm a biologist.
They don't cite a single source. So their books, they go through, you go through the pages, they don't cite anything, to the point that they actually quote at one point, and I have this written down, yeah, they don't cite any of their sources to the point, there's a bug, to the point that they even quote Jeff Cooper, which the United States military quotes, every single firearms industry quotes and credits. Jeff Cooper is the guy who's like the father of the firearms rules, you know? So anyway, they quote him and they don't cite him. They just plagiarize him blatantly. And it is plagiarism when you don't cite your source. So throughout their book, you'll see a whole bunch of plagiarism without any quotes. There's no air quotes. There's no nothing. It's just them saying their words. So they technically commit plagiarism. We're not lawyers. We're not giving them legal advice.
Common knowledge can be cited without a source. but you know,
They don't cite a single source throughout the entire book.
it would have been cool to put his name in there for him.
Some of the other options, like where they do that, is they say things that are like conflicting information. And the point of SDI is that it's supposed to be, according to them, a good and complete source for people of all stages, whether you have a lot of firearms knowledge or a little bit of firearms knowledge or no firearms knowledge. And the problem with the coursework is that it's designed to work for everyone, which means it works for no one. So for instance, if you have absolutely no firearms knowledge whatsoever and you're starting at SDI, on one of the first pages of the rifle book, it says rifle shooters only shoot 20 to 30 rounds per session, while handgun users shoot 50 to 100 rounds per session.
Maybe if you're a boomer.
Where does that even come from? There's no source for that. It's not true. It's inaccurate. 20 to 30 rounds is less than one magazine from your AR-15. Like, you're popping off one mag and then you go, oof.
What a day.
That was a good, hard, long session right there. And I know all about good, hard, long sessions. So that's what I'm saying. Like, this is absurd. And then this is the best part, because right, not even more than 5 pages after the exact page where they say rifle shooters only shoot 20 to 30 rounds per session, handgun users shoot 50 to 100, they say, you need to lubricate your gun thoroughly because many shooters go through 150 to 200 rounds per shooting session, and your rifle must be well lubricated to overcome high heat and carbon buildup while shooting. So they just told you that you only shoot 20 to 30, and then 8 pages later, they're telling you that they go 150 to 200 rounds per session, and your rifle may be well lubricated to overcome high heat and carbon buildup. First of all, 150 to 200 rounds is not going to create enough high heat or carbon buildup to prevent your rifle from working.
That's 5 to 7 magazines.
So they say this information, they say these things to people, and then 8 pages later, they give you different information. And again, they don't cite a source. A lot of the courses are like this. They give you this information, and then some pages later, they give you completely different information. And also, we've all run our guns bone dry. My current rifle has over 1,000 rounds through it without putting more lubricant on it, and it's fine.
I don't think I cleaned my carry gun even after the last time shooting it.
And they just work. So it's very weird to give that kind of like conflicting information. And they go into this more with like Spartan Lube, they claim, or whoever their sponsor is. I'll put it right here. But some company sponsored their books, and they say that it improves the velocity and accuracy of your firearm when you clean with it without citing a single source.
Muzzle velocity.
That's
a stumper.
It's interesting. Muzzle velocity and accuracy is the claim. And again, no source. So you're giving this textbook to people who know nothing about firearms and then giving them incorrect or conflicting information in some areas. And there's just no sources cited throughout the entire book, so it doesn't matter. Like, at the end of the day, I can't tell you where that information came from. It just came from my SDI textbook. And SDI is somehow now an authority because they make $50 million a year after siphoning your hard-earned GI Bill. Well, you lost a leg in combat or whatever and want to be a...
I mean, if they want to write their own textbook, that's fine. But they should get their own, you know, military prior gunsmiths or whoever, someone who at least can cite their experience and then cite them as the source.
Yeah, the exact source that SDI gives, and thank you for bringing that up, the source that SDI gives is actually on the front of every booklet. They say it's from gunsmiths and blogs and articles and YouTube.
Oh, they got the Reddit AI info from Google?
Like the Reddit AI info. And the other thing to note, and this is the hardest part that we're going to hammer in, there are video links throughout the textbook for YouTube videos that are not made by SDI. They're made by other people that you're supposed to watch as a portion of your coursework to learn about the information. So,
which is actually common practice throughout other schools, because I did that all the time for college.
Yeah, it's common practice. It's not common practice to have it as like the main learning point for your entire course. And then also, if YouTube takes down this firearms content, which they have started doing, their coursework becomes mute, so they need to have replacements for it. I'd like to see it localized on something, especially since you're paying $22,000, but you're getting shown coursework. So I did reach out to students and some responses, and the majority of them wanted to remain anonymous, but I'm going to quickly slam even more negative reviews across the screen. I asked people some very simple questions. I asked them, one, do they feel SDI was worth it? And 80% of the people I asked said no. I asked 20 people, so most of them said no. I asked, do they feel like they got a complete knowledge of gunsmithing from SDI? Every single one of them said no. The third question I asked them was very simple. I said, did SDI put you further forward in your career or into a higher paying position as a gunsmith? No. All of them said no. After him dropping out, us doing research, seeing all of these negative reviews, we couldn't shill SDI.
Yeah, it didn't seem worth it.
We couldn't show SDI. We couldn't tell you guys to spend $22,000 on there to let them siphon your GI Bill. SDI just makes so much money, and they put so much money into the gun tube community. It really sucks to see, because YouTube is constantly robbing from us. So we're pushed into these situations where like SDI will want to give you $5,000 a month and sponsor your channel because they have just stupid amounts of money, thanks to the top influencers shilling them and them just getting students that, you know, if you have a GI Bill, it doesn't cost you anything, so they just siphon it.
I got some FAFSA money, some government money that I ended up having to repay because I dropped out. But that $1,370 a month was what I was paying after I got my student aid. So it is expensive.
It's a lot of money that they're taking from people, and we just don't like to see it. We couldn't rightfully shill it. It might be something that you look into and you go, you guys are crazy. SDI is great. I want to do it. It's not my thing. We can't push it to you. I don't think it's going to give you a career in gunsmithing. I don't think it's going to give you information that you can't learn on YouTube for free. And more importantly, I know for a fact it's not going to get you a higher paying job than if you just go to any firearms manufacturing plant and start on the floor. And it actually will give you the same position as that. So it's just going to handicap you. Hopefully that is helpful. Hopefully this helped you decide if you're picking SDI. We just felt like it's interesting that none of the other influencers are talking about it. And so many people are now getting owned and shilling SDI to people.
It's very easy to decide to run an ad for something that sounds good when the check that hits your account is for tens of thousands of dollars.
It is more money for us to do an SDI sponsorship than us doing any other sponsorship.
Yeah, probably would have been our highest paying month for just that ad.
Yep.
If we had decided to run it. But it's really, if you learn well in a classroom-based environment, you'll get a background knowledge, but you won't get any hands-on skill or information.
And the information won't necessarily be complete or accurate because they don't cite their sources and they give you different information throughout the coursework.
Yeah, gunsmiths are machinists, first and foremost, I think, especially manufacturers. If you want to do some hand touch-ups, stuff like that, work on your feed ramps, all you need is a Dremel.
Just go to like Colorado School of Trades.
Yeah.
Right. So
go to a trade school.
Go to a trade school.
Learn how to run a machine shop. You know, and then you can be a gunsmith when you figure out your plans for that. If you want information, you'll learn something.
You can find everything about drones online for free. It's unmanned aerial systems, and you can find more about drones than their course will offer you. And it's also not an associate's in drone work. It's just a course. It's a 16-week course in drone.
They've got like a shooting sports management program. Again, you'll probably figure something out there, but if you just start going to USPSA or IPSC or whatever local competitions you want, you'll learn more about how the sports are managed by shooting in them than you will by sitting in a Zoom class all day.
It's a 16 credit, 16-week semester. So it's a 1 semester aerial systems for unmanned technology. After seeing their coursework for all of this stuff, and someone who, I fly drones a lot, it's kind of my thing. I build drones too.
He has one right there.
There's one sitting behind the cameraman right now. Information on drones changes rapidly.
It's a very quickly developing technology.
Yeah, and if they teach you AVI stuff, no one's using AVI. We're starting to expand channels. We're seeing it in wars. They're just going to channels that no one would run because it makes signal jammers harder to use. And most people are now switching to like DVI. We're running into like fiber cables. If they're not teaching you that information, it's going to be incorrect. And the problem with drone stuff is it's so rapidly changing that taking a 16-week course, by the time you're finished with your 16-week course, you're probably learned outdated information. That's just coming from my experience, and I do the video stuff for a living. So, and drones are kind of my jazz. I love drones. So I think that I have a little bit of knowledge on there. So
yeah,
that's it, guys. We just wanted to, I don't know. We felt like no one's been talking about SDI. We need to talk about SDI. We need to talk about the fact that
none of the people shilling SDI have any experience going to SDI, which mine is limited because I realized it maybe wasn't worth it.
And then everyone we know who's gone to SDI, I had one person say that it was okay and it was good for him, and that is great. I could not get him to tell me that it was worth the $22,000 that he spent on it. And
college really isn't. I have a degree in biology that I spent probably close to $70,000 on over 4 years, and I don't know anything about biology, which is why I'm not in a biology job. I do road maintenance locally, close to home here. So
So anyway, guys, this video was brought to you by SDI. If you want to get your sponsor, no, I'm kidding.
I don't think we can do that.
Kidding. We can't do that. So
this ad has no sponsor currently.
That's it, guys. If you want to get your start in gunsmithing, start on YouTube, go to a trade school, or start baseline, walk into the Nero Precision factory and
yeah, apply online.
Apply
if
online.
you want a job in the gun world, all these companies have a careers tab usually at the bottom of their homepage. Start looking and applying, make some calls,
You'll
send
get the
some
same
emails.
job you get with a degree. So thanks so much for watching, guys. And as always, you're watching. I don't know. You're watching.
You're watching a channel sponsored by Milspec Retail. Go buy stuff with our code, please.
Yep. Please.
Please.
good.
Please buy stuff. It pays us money.